Welcome to the first Kalibre Academy Optimized podcast, where we focus on how to get your mind and body primed for peak performance. This is the first in a series of podcasts, and we are super honored and excited to be joined by the legendary Kirk Thompson, otherwise known as DJ Krust, widely regarded as one of the pioneers of the drum and bass and jungle scene. He has released over 100 tracks and has produced 3 albums on labels such as Full Cycle, Talking Loud, and V Recordings, with personal favourite tunes including Set Speed, Jazz Note, Angles, and not forgetting Warhead. We can't start this podcast without giving a massive salute to the huge impact that Krust has had on the drum and bass and jungle scene. But today, we want to talk to him as Kirk Thompson. Although his musical career is an impressive list of accolades, today's chat will be focusing on other areas of his expertise, including high-performance coaching, neuro-linguistic-programming, creative thinking, time management, overcoming personal challenges, wellness, and the development of the working mindset. Kirk's first non-music business venture was launched in 2009, a company called Disruptive Patterns, a lifestyle coaching consultancy aimed at translating the ideologies of jungle into other industry sectors. Kirk has held workshops and seminars at music colleges and universities across the UK in venues such as the Barbican and Soho House. And that is where we want to start off the chat today.
So, okay, was there a pivotal moment in your music career that influenced you and your decision to get into the coaching world and to move into that space as a high-performance coach?
First of all, I just want to say thank you guys for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here with you guys. Ever since you guys spoke to me about what you guys have been doing, I've been fascinated with talking to you more about it. So this is a first and a pleasure to be here. So yeah, for me, I think it was a gradual sliding, slippery slope kind of thing. I think there was definitely a pivotal moment when I kind of sort of had a realization and an epiphany. I woke up in a club when we were doing a Full Cycle night in Bristol. And I just remember sort of standing in the corner thinking, is this it? We'd won the Mercury Music Prize. We'd been signed to the majors. We started a label from nothing. We toured all around the world. I had socks in my drawers filled with money, and by all accounts I've made it. I was successful, but I'd never felt more empty. I'd never felt more sort of alone as well. And so about 3 months after that, I left the label. I just walked away from it all. And I guess that was the sort of the reaction to it. But if I look back at it, it was going on, before then for about 2 or 3 years. I started to have these sort of niggling feelings like something wasn't right. And I kept saying to myself, how can this be wrong? You live in this life, you're earning this money. And I was looking at all the material stuff, and I was totally ignoring what was going on inside and these signals that was going on inside. And it just came to a head. And so I left. And that was probably the hardest decision, actually. That's probably what it was going on. That's what was going on inside. It was me sort of coming to terms with this decision that you're going to have to, maybe it was a bit drastic looking back now. I could have did it a different way, but I'm an all or nothing type of guy. So it was like, you're going to have to leave this situation, and figure out A, why you're not happy, B, what you're going to do, and C, how you're going to take your life to wherever it is that you wanted to take it to. I didn't have any answers to any of that. All I knew was that I knew one thing for sure. If I carried on down the road I was going down, it wasn't going to end well. We were in high level party mode, Full Cycle. We built it up and we traveled the world. We created this monster. We took it all the way we could. Signed to the majors, signed to Def Jam in America, touring all around and everything. Working with Method Man, Redman, Saul Williams, Zach De La Rocca. Like I said, by all accounts, we'd made it, but it wasn't. For me anyway, it wasn't sustainable at the way we were doing it, the way I was doing it. And so, yeah, that was a moment really.
What was missing then? So obviously, you'd set this goal and this vision, and you'd achieved what you wanted to do. And it sounds like there was a few warning signs along the way, but when you reached that moment, like what was it inside you that you think particularly was missing?
I don't think that we actually were prepared for what we created. You got to sort of imagine a scenario. We're these, young kids, 19. I think we started when we were about 20. I actually getting into music business when I was 14. I saw a film called Wild Style. That was my big aha moment. That was my first big, like, what is this? I need to do what I'm seeing there. And I clearly remember seeing this film and wanting to do what these guys were doing. Before then, I was a mod. So mods didn't really do anything. So when I saw hip hop, it was like, wow, there was a whole culture there. So it was easy just to jump across. One day I was wearing a Crombie, the next day I was wearing a Shell suit.
This is the Fresh 4.
This is the Fresh 4
period, right?
Yeah.
So they were the top 10 UK chart at the time.
Yeah.
Right? So just tell us a little bit about that. That was before the full cycle.
Yeah.
Time. So you've been in this from
yeah.
day.
So like from 14, I watched Wild Style. My brother, came in the room one night when me and my mates were just hanging out. He goes, watch this. And he throws us this VHS cassette tape, like a brick. And he says, watch this. And we're like, what is it? He goes, just watch it. So we watched it and it just completely blew our little 14-year-old minds. You know what I mean? We hadn't seen anything like it. Breakdancing, graffiti, spray paint. It was the whole blueprint culture. And for me, it was the Bible. I've lived my life according to that since, from then onwards. So the next day, me and my brothers, we hold a meeting in my mum's front garden and we're going, right, we're going to start a crew. Who's in it? And so there's about 8 or 9 of us in the garden, all like 14, 15-year-olds, right? We're going to start this crew. It's called Fresh 4. We knew exactly what we were going to do. We'd done it, like, we'd already sort of done it in 24 hours. We created a crew. We got commitment and
straightforward.
It was literally, it was that inspirational. I knew as soon as I'd seen it, that's what I was going to do. It wasn't even a hesitation. I've had 3 or 4 other occasions in my life when I get that conviction, I'm all in.
And a sort of knowing that, whatever happens, this is just not over analyzing it.
No
sort of business plan.
It's just there. I feel it there. I see the picture. I see myself doing it down the line. That's it. I'm in. And you're either with me or you're not.
Why do you think people are struggling to do that these days?
Too many distractions. Social media, phones. There's too much going on. And I think that people think that the whole idea with the law of attraction is you just got to meditate and visualize and you'll get it. It's like, it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. You could probably do it in 7 now, but there's one thing you will never beat, and that's time. Mm. You cannot grow a baby any faster. You cannot make money any faster. If you do, it betrays you. And you have to plant the seeds and you have to let it grow. And when I saw what I saw, that's the planting the seeds. And I've seen it over and over and over and over again. I've seen it so many times. And I've been fortunate to be around in the beginning of hip hop, the beginning of trip hop, the beginning of jungle, the beginning of dubstep. I've seen it so many times. It's the same pattern. It gets quicker, but the ones who have stayed in it the longest are the ones who get the most benefits.
You mentioned 10 years there, so it was like 97. Was it 97 New Forms Mercury Music?
Yeah.
So what was that like the pivotal moment? That must have been like, and then it was 2006 when you decided to actually kind of take a step back and start your business from there.
Yeah, I think exactly. Yeah, exactly. It was
so what was the height in terms, you said party wise, 97. We just keep going through, like, in terms of the way that you and your crew, the full cycle team was gigging, touring.
I think we grew up in the rock and roll era. Do you know what I mean? We grew up watching Gary Glitter. Oh, that's a bad example. We grew up watching, in the Steve Austin era, right? We grew up in the Ronald Reagan era. We grew up in the Burt Reynolds era, where men were men, right? It was like, that was our role models, Kevin Keegan. And, it was like, you turn on the TV and it was like, if you were a man, you'd have a fag and you drink, and you bang as many women as possible. No disrespect, but
the Marlboro cowboy, right?
Yeah. And it was like, that was the role model, right? And so that was just all what we saw. And so for us coming through, what we saw was this whole idea is like, when you got successful, you partied. You drank, it was rock and roll. You know, and I remember when we did I think the first Represent tour we did, that was the Great Rock and Roll Full Cycle Swindle. We were absolutely off the rails. Like you couldn't tell the difference between us or a rock band. It was ridiculous.
That's you, Ronnie, Sav, Di.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just crazy on a tour bus for 4 weeks. You know,
party.
It was just party central. We just had bad role models. We didn't have a plan. And so to answer your question, we never planned to get successful. We did what we did because there was nothing for us to do. You know, I grew up in a white council estate where Tony Blair said that is the worst council estate in Europe. That's where I grew up. So I was one of 7 or 11 black families, and I suffered racism from as early as I can remember till I left. And then I had the other problem. When I left the white ghetto, I went to a black ghetto. In the white ghetto, I was too black, and in the black ghetto, I wasn't black enough. So I was fucked if I did, and fucked if I didn't. Yeah. So I've always been in that space. And then when we started to do jungle, we created this family, and all of a sudden it's like, it's not real music. So again, we can't fit in. You're making this devil music. What's this music you're making? And so I've always been in these situations where I've been the outsider. And so I've always had to figure out how to just make what we've got work. And that's what the Fresh 4 was about. Seeing that video, it was like, well, I tried to get a job. You know, I left school at 15. I tried to get a job, you know, and I was doing the music, and my dad was like, cut your hair and go and get a job, because I had locks then. And I was like, thanks, Dad. And then my mum was like, do whatever is going to make you happy, but make sure you got a backup plan. I said, for you, Mum, I'll give this job thing a go. So I went out and I tried all kinds of jobs. And the final straw came where I went into a warehouse, and the job was stacking pallets. Right. And I walked into the guy's office, and he looked at me, and I knew I never had the job. And he just looked up, gave me that look, put his head down, never looked at me again throughout the rest of the questions. And I just left and worked where the warehouse was. You had to cross a river to get back to where I lived. As I walked over the river, I took my tire, threw it in the river. I said, fuck this, I'm never doing this again. And that was the day I committed to music.
That gave you the drive to then to, all right, that's it. I'm going to succeed with
I'm going to do this. 100%.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah, 100%.
And that lasted for however many years until, well, the parties went through the motions. And then there was this moment where you decided to change. And I'm just curious about the whole, you know, the burnout side of that. Like, were there any particular warning signs that you saw coming along? And did you like, how did you deal with that? How did you address that?
You didn't. There
wasn't any coping mechanisms, right? I guess
there were coping mechanisms.
There were coping mechanisms.
That's what you do. You take the drugs and you smoke the weed and you drink, because remember, if we haven't planned any of this, and now we're going from, so I had a taste before that. So Fresh 4, we get a lot of success. My brother makes a tune. Within 1 year, he makes a tune, and the next year that tune gets released. It gets signed to Virgin, and it goes top 40, top 30, top 20, top 10. The next logical move would have been number 1, and something happened, so it didn't happen. But all of a sudden, we've got fans outside of our window, right? And I'm just a b-boy that was just doing warehouse parties before then. So
this is all in the space of a year.
This is all in the space.
Like, right, we're having a crew. Yeah. To having top 10.
Yeah. I mean, no, that happens in about 4 years. Okay. So from DJing, from school parties to youth club parties, to we had our own warehouse. So we broke into found a scout hut, and we started doing our own legal parties in there every month. That's how we built the brand. And then from there, we started to, my brother was this idea, right, we got to have this signature tune that's going to separate us from everybody else. Because remember, this is the b-boy mentality. You got to be fresh, you got to be dope, you got to be original and creative. That's the sort of Bible for me. That's what we got from Wildstar. So he makes this record, that gets signed, things blow up. So I've had a little taste of it. And in that little taste, I've seen a few things that are a bit off and I think, okay, cool, this is the music business, da-da-da-da. And then it all goes. As quick as we get it, we get dropped because we don't know what we're doing, right? When these 19-year-old kids, we don't know how to make music. and it just ends really quickly. So we get into, this is when the whole rave thing happens.
Yeah.
So we get into raving.
What year would that have been for you?
I'm not very good with dates really, but it's
Early
like
90s.
early 90s, yeah.
Yeah.
Just when the rave, Castle Morton, Lechlade, all them type of things is going on.
1989 as well. That was a big one, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So we're out in the fields raving. So I already had, so my next big aha moment is when we're in London, we're being shown around by the record companies. They're saying, you got to go into the studio. So we go into this recording studio and they open the door and bam, it hits me, my second big one. I'm like, this is it. I know what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. It was like that. And then I come back to Bristol and my brother has a sampler. I say, teach me how to use a sampler.
So just pausing and going to that bam, that moment. Tell me a little bit about that. What is that specifically? Like,
it's just like a knowing. It was literally the lights come on. It's a moment, you know, in Limitless, that film, where when he takes the pill and everything lights up. It's
your
very
senses are kind of heightened.
Everything goes dull.
Mm.
Everything just goes quiet. I can hear my heart beating in my chest. I can hear everything internally. My eyes are glazed over. It's just a soft glaze, and I'm totally tuned out. I can't hear anything anyone's saying. You got to push me to get my attention, and I'm just dreaming. I'm in the studio. I'm imagining myself on the decks, like pushing up the Fabers. I'm imagining myself hitting the keyboard. I'm just there. That's happening right now. I'm living that experience. And then someone says, "Kay," and you're like, "Oh, I'm back." And it's like, and then for me, nothing else matters. I need to pursue this, and then I go after it until I get it.
So with the whole like visualization and having a vision, and you mentioned the law of attraction as well before, and you know people are more aware of this kind of thing now. But did you, like, how much did you use visualization to get to where you did, knowingly? Like, did you practice it? Was it part of a routine? Did you meditate on this stuff?
No, not once. I never wrote down any goals, any affirmations. Like I said,
never even wrote goals down.
Not
Were
once.
you aware of the fact of the concept?
No.
Then.
No,
so you weren't like, right, I've got a 5-year vision, a 10-year vision, none of that.
No. None of us
happened.
did. Like I said, we followed one thing, the music. That's all we did. We knew we wanted to do music. Like I said, we never planned for it to happen the way it did. The one time we did plan, we planned to create Full Cycle. We planned to make music. We planned to release music. It got to a point where we knew we needed to do something else because we were just getting a lot of attention from majors, and this whole conversation about signing to a major started to come up. We were, Mowax was, and James was. We were in conversation with them, Paul Martin and Giles Peterson from Talking Loud. We were in conversation with them. And there was another couple of labels that we were kind of in conversations with. And it just became obvious. We were doing all these remixes. It was just obvious that something was going to happen. And, I think what we were good at, especially, kind of all of us, we were very good at sensing when something needed to change or when there was an opportunity there to sort of grasp and seize. I think when we were making this music and it wasn't even called anything, we kind of all sensed it. So I was hanging out with with Di and Suv, right? And we were all making music together. I knew Ronnie, I knew of him, but we've never hung out. One day we were like, right, we got to do some of all this music, right? Me, Suv and Di, we just got piles and piles of music. We were hanging out in the back of Smith and Mighty studio. So Smith and Mighty were like the big producers in Bristol at the time. They helped massive, and Tricky and everybody. And then we were like, we got to do something. We got to start this label. And Sub's like, well, I know Ronnie. He wants to do this label thing as well. It's like, right, let's have a meeting then. So we all sit down. We're having a meeting together, and Ronnie pulls out his cassette and he goes, "Listen to this." He's making exactly the same music as us. Like, so there's this thing going on that we're all doing. And so Sub goes, "Yeah, I know the Q Project boys in Oxford. Let's go meet them." Same thing. We go and sit down in a room with those. We've never met them before, Smithy, Quiffy. And they play some music, and it's exactly the same tempo as ours. Breakbeats, jungle. We're like, so then we go to Exodus in Luton. We hear LTJ Bookham. He's playing this music. Like none of us are listening to these like people doing what they're doing. It's like this wave that's coming over the youth of the time. Do you know what I mean? And we're all tuning into this tempo that's rising.
It's mad exciting.
You're all creating the same thing at the same time, unknowingly. It's almost like tapping into that.
Yeah, it's
that
like
creative energy.
Yeah, Alan Moore calls it the idea space, right? So it's like you know, I understand it as creative consciousness evolves, and it's like where everyone gets the call, but very few answer.
I like the concept of there's these ideas floating around.
Exactly.
And you get this bit of inspiration of this idea. But if you don't act on it, it will go to someone else.
Exactly.
And then it's their chance. And it's quite often the case where someone will have an idea, not act, and then they'll notice, oh, well, that person's pinched my idea there.
Exactly. That's what they'll say.
Yeah, someone's nicked my idea. Well, it's like, well, mate, you didn't
act on it.
So we're like interested, you know, when it comes to peak performance and creativity, and the flow state is obviously has to be mentioned. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, and this discovery of when we're really performing at our peak, we're in this. Some people call it the zone, or in the state of flow. And so, can you explain what the flow state means to you and how it's helped you in your own performance?
This is probably one area where I was very conscious of from a long time, because of the way that you're making music. And what I noticed was the pattern when I'd make music, there'd be this initial kind of rough period where you're collecting ideas and you're putting together sort of rough concepts, and then it'd be like this rise in sort of challenging, solving problems, and then all of a sudden there's this like moment of unconsciousness that would probably last for a couple of days, right? And that would be what most people would be recognizing as the flow state. And we would get there often making music, and it was a thing that I came to recognize and be able to cultivate. And it would be a really interesting thing, because the unconsciousness about it. I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. It's funny because I remember speaking to Ronnie and Di about this many times. We'd be in the studio and be making music, and then towards the end of a track or a session, there'd be just this sort of weird blackout. Like no one kind of knows how the track would be finished, but the track would be finished. We'd be there, we'd be working, but it would almost be like we've just sort of clocked out for a minute, collectively clocked out.
Time distortion. Right?
Yeah, time distortion, but almost like we're not there as well.
Well, yeah, there's this loss of sense of self, loss of sense of time, loss of ego.
Yeah, yeah.
And it sounds there, it's like it's all happening with the group of you at once as well, which is even more amazing.
Because no one would know who did what. And like even now, we've gone back to tunes and who did that, and no one would know.
Really? So you weren't even aware of who made a certain... That's incredible, yeah.
No. It is nuts, it's nuts. But the thing about it is I've had that so many times. Now I know what it is, and now I know how to cultivate it.
In your experience of those moments, what is the process for you? How can you replicate that? Because I think a lot of the time we fall into the flow state unknowingly. I used to get on my motorbike. I'd have some amazing rides.
Yeah.
And then I'd try and replicate the riding.
Yeah.
And it was just a question of getting from A to B. And I was like, hang on a minute, I was bossing it like on the same road, and now the conditions are the same.
Yeah.
Why am I not in this, I called it God mode. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
I was like, why am I not in God mode? So I started taking notes.
Yeah.
And it would be these tiny little adjustments, like making sure that my earbuds felt comfortable, and that I was a little bit of embodiment shift on the bike and all this sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so I started making a notebook of how I could then cultivate this state.
Yeah.
So how would you cultivate that?
Well, in the smoking days, it would be smoking weed, right? So that would be the ritual. The ritual would be, right, let's find someone who's got it, go to their house, touch it. Do you know what I mean? That was all part of it. You touch it and you just smell it. Oh, this is good. We're going to have a good session. You go back to the studio, you get the blunts out, and you'd make them all, you roll them all up, put them to the side, and then set the studio up. So now you're like, you probably go out for 2 or 3 days and you buy loads of records, buy maybe some old equipment, and then you'd have a session of lit smoking, listening to the music or playing the old pieces of equipment, and you could feel yourself sort of relaxing more, detaching, going into our world, right? Detaching from everybody else. 3 or 4 of us in a room, lock the door, right? Now we're creating our own little ritual, our own little world, you know, and we can just feel ourselves just relaxing. And then we have this sort of shared language that would come out at certain points, and you'd know you're getting somewhere. And then eventually, you know, no one's talking now. We're just, it's almost, you know, it's this automatic thing. You know when to play the record, you know, someone just knows to sample, and it's like there's no talking for hours now. We're just sampling, we're just in the mode. Now we're in it. We're in the soup.
Then you're in the flow state.
We're in the soup.
It's really interesting when you're talking through that process. So there's this, like the latest research on the flow state, there's this cycle and 4 parts of the cycle. So the recovery part, the struggle phase, which is where like requires motivation, it requires grit, like things that we don't really want to do, we have to push ourselves. And a lot of people don't push through that to get into flow. But the stage between struggle and flow is what they call release. So that's when the brain waves change and we get into alpha brain waves. And it sounds like this ritual of like going out and doing what you do. Boys there. That's you moving from struggle into release, preparing into, and then getting into flow and making music.
And it's very interesting you're saying that, because throughout some of my coaching sessions, what I've noticed is that where people resist going through those quadrants, they don't get to the next level in their career or the next level of making something special. And this is what we spoke about before we got on air, is that to break, sometimes when things get stagnated, it's because people are not prepared to go through the ritual because of the struggle.
Yeah, well, either you're a hustler, so it's all about the grind, and it's all about the struggle and that hustler mentality, but then they fall back to recovery, and it's just this mixture of like recovery and struggle. Or they're the bliss junkie and they're like, right, well, I don't want to do anything unless I'm in the flow state. You know, it's like, so it's this like procrastinating and
waiting for this thing to happen.
Yeah. So they don't do the struggle.
Yeah.
So it's the 2 different types of people, really, the hustlers and the kind of bliss junkies.
Yeah. I mean, you have to be, and I think this is where communities are powerful. You know, you have to be willing to, because if you can't do it yourself, you're going to have to be with a crew of people who are doing it, or at least are going to come through the journey with you, because it is tough work, you know, facing that. I was going to use a really strong word, but it's not that. It's the difficulty, and it's a challenge that is rewarded if you're prepared to do the work to get there. When you're on the outside and you're being face to face yourself, in that creative endeavor, most people see that challenge, and that all of a sudden their awareness is flared up, that anxiety and stress, because now they've imagined this thing about, you know, success and what it's going to be like when I make it, right? And the pressure of thinking that shuts down the creativity, shuts down the flow, and all of a sudden they're back into their safety, and that's kind of like one of the curses of creativity,
back
right?
in their head.
Yeah, right. And now they're settling for this kind of mediocrity that is kind of celebrated at the moment, I'm afraid. You know,
trying to fit in and just create things that other people are going to say is okay without taking the risk and creating something authentic, right?
Yeah, because to move the needle, you've got to be willing to go beyond the safety net, right?
To younger folk that are starting out now and they're producing music on the scene, what tips would you give them to break into their creative power?
I would definitely, now I would have a goal. Like these days I have goals. I'm very focused on having a direction and a clear direction of what I wanted to achieve. And if someone comes to me and they say, Kay, you know, I want my career to look like this in 12 months or 2 years, I will say to them, right, this is what you need to do. You need to be very focused and visualize what that looks like. That's your first task. Get a clear goal of what it is that you're trying to achieve, and then understand what it feels like, not looks. What does it feel like when you're there? When you've done that work, it almost unfolds backwards. The steps become easy to do. The mechanics of it is 20%, right? The mechanics is 20%. The psychological stuff, the 80%, is the work, right? When you have to push yourself, get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, stop the distractions, stop the video games, stop the gossiping, stop hanging around with people that is no good for you. Maybe having to stop, smoking, partying, even the music that you're making might not be the right, or the projects that you do might not be the right thing for you, right? You might just be doing that because you think that's what you should do because everyone else around you does it. And the thing that you really want to do and you're passionate about, the people around you ain't excited about, so you don't pursue it. I see that a lot.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone trying to fit in.
Tribe mentality.
Yeah. And they're rewarded with it. And that's what I mean by the mediocre, because the rewards from that is likes.
Yeah.
Right?
But essentially, you were learning on the job. You were like first generation drum and bass, jungle, what came from your camp. Now like younger producers can look to people like yourself and they've paved the way, they've made these mistakes. And they can have people like yourselves as a mentor. Did you have anyone to look up to within the scene? Was anyone kind of on a mentorship?
Well,
you guys literally just
in
learning on the job?
Yeah, well, in the beginning it was Smith and Mighty.
Okay.
So Smith and Mighty were like, and some of the massive boys as well. Mm. So in the beginning it was like, we used to go to all of the, like before it was Massive Attack, they were called Wild Bunch. So they used to do lots of warehouse parties in Bristol. There was a house parties. So we used to go to all of those. So DJing, it was a Wild Bunch. It was just like train spotters. Every time they were playing, we'd be there front of the decks just watching, like seeing how they were scratching, trying to see what records they had. The production came from Smith and Mighty. We were the flies on the wall in their studio for years, like me and Di Sub, just hanging out in the back room. But we also picked up the philosophy as well, like the codes of creativity, the codes of conduct, how you're supposed to be as a producer, a man in the world, a creator in the world, how you're supposed to have respect for, the culture and the codes and stuff like that. So those guys really set the standard for us. And for us as well, being in Bristol, we weren't in London and we weren't in, Liverpool or Manchester, Brighton. We were in this remote city that was, miles away from everywhere. And we could do our own thing. We were allowed to sort of build this sound that was very different and unique. And Bristol's got its own culture. So we took a lot of that, the Bristol b-boy culture, the Bristol sound, the Bristol ethics. We brought that into the music. And we kind of, to a certain degree, we kind of knew how we wanted to behave and who we were. I think what the next step was, we needed to be around mentors who were like 2 or 3 years, 5 years ahead of us. Unfortunately, there was no. We were the guinea pigs, like you're saying. We were the ones first doing it, so we had to make all the mistakes.
Yeah,
and in that, we created the blueprint that is what everybody uses today, good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've heard of some crazy stories, and it's like, well. And people are like, well, our close crew will be like, well, that's what we used to do. But,
Do you think maybe is it better to do trial and error, or do you think people get too stuck on a blueprint? I don't know. What's your views?
You need both.
Yeah.
You need a mentor. You definitely need a mentor. You need a mentor who's going to teach you the basics, the principles, the structures, because they'll never change, right? It's like learning Kung Fu, right?
Well, there's a code for everything, right?
Yeah.
There's a code for success.
Yeah. You need to learn that, and then once you've mastered it, then you need to learn how to break the rules. Right?
So how do you think the industry dynamics have changed over the years, if you could summarize it? And what would you say to someone starting out now?
It depends on what they want to try and do. The music business isn't run by the music business anymore. It's run by the tech companies. That's the biggest change in my lifetime anyway, that I've seen. And I think where it's going to go, the music business won't be wrestled back by music people. it will just go to, I think the music business itself will, I mean, it's all part of the entertainment world, but the music business as what people think that they're going into now isn't the music business. So I think that needs to be clearly delineated of why somebody wants to do that. Most of the people that want to go into making music or producing are stuck on the fantasy of what it was 20 years ago. Right? Most people I'm coaching, they want to start a label, they want to be a producer, they want to be a DJ. They cite to me what happened 20 years ago. So they're really stuck in this whole 20 years ago, the nostalgia of it. And it's like, we're not there anymore. You know, we're about to go into Web3 and AI, you know, Terminator land, Matrix, the real Matrix land. And most people aren't prepared for it. And this with good reason. Human beings can't manage the future the way that it's being presented to us at the moment. So we're very behind it. There's only a few really, really smart people who are creating it. They don't even know what it's for. We don't even know what the mobile phone's for right now. It seems like you got to think about what exactly are we doing with these devices? Taking pictures and going on social media. It's like, really? We were supposed to have a device in our pockets that's more advanced than they used to send a man on the moon. And all I'm doing is posting a picture of me at a festival. Like, so we're not there yet.
There's still that distance between having to actually access the phone, but soon enough there will be no barrier, right? It's just like what's there will be part of, whether it's a contact lens or whether it's one of these virtual reality sets to be put on, or whether it's just part of our thinking, you know?
That's not really, I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is we still don't know what it's for. Like, really, it's like, no one knows what it's for. It's like, you know, like even AI, oh yeah, AI is going to take over the world. What, with emails? Writing letters to my boss? That's the way it's being promoted. Write better emails, write better marketing stuff. With AI, you're telling me we've just created the most sophisticated technology in the world, and all it's going to do is write a social media post for me quicker.
Where do you think AI will be in the next 5 years?
It might even be there by the end of this year, to be honest. Remember, we're on GPT-5 now. So that's from November of this year. They did 100,000 signups in 1 month, fastest ever 100,000 signups in any business. They're on Evolution 5. We're on iPhone 14. So do the maths. Where's it going to be? AI is updating itself. So they're probably on AI 10, but they won't release it now because they've got to manage it. It's going to, you know.
I remember Elon Musk saying a while ago, he was like, look, it's inevitable that some point AI will develop consciousness, right? It's just a question of when. And when it does, it will change humanity forever, for good or for worse. Probably for worse, but he didn't say that. But it's like,
I don't think it is going to be for worse. You got to remember, the majority of our ideas about technology and aliens comes from Hollywood, right? Think about where all our ideas for rich people come from. It's from Hollywood. Have you ever seen a Disney film or any film from Hollywood where the rich people were good? Think about it. 101 Dalmatians.
Yeah.
It's always the rich person's bad. So they're programming us from a young age to fall in love. You got to have a princess or a prince, right? Rich people are evil. They're always the negative ones. They're always the ones trying to do bad things. Poor people are always the good guys.
Robin Hood.
Right? Think of the programming. So what do we all want to be? We all push away money because we always want to be the good guys. Who wants to be the Darth Vader? No one. Everyone wants to be Luke Skywalker. Who wants to be, Cruella de Vil? No one. Everyone wants to be right? So you got to remember, the programming that we're getting from society is programming us to stay at the bottom of the pyramid.
And it's still a very taboo, especially maybe less so in the States, but in Britain, it's still a very taboo topic, money. It's like,
it's loaded.
Talk about money and it triggers people so much.
It's loaded.
And it's like, well, why? Why can't we talk about money and help each other to make more? It's surely that's what it's about, is bringing people with you on that journey. But no, people don't like it. And it is programming. It is conditioning.
Going back to your journey, right? So music, full cycle, blows up. 2006, you decide to take a step back.
Yeah.
How hard, easy was that decision to make? You took a few years out and then you came back with your with your coaching, mentoring business. Within that 3 years, what was happening to you? How did you detract from all this kind of you know, the touring, the music, the DJing, the party? You made a decision, you acted on it.
Yeah.
Tell us about the what was going through your head, and how you took that next step.
Yeah, it was the hardest thing I'd ever done. You know, I'd been married to Ronnie before, and Di and Sub for 10 years, and you know the other guys in the business, and so it was heartbreaking. There was nothing. At the time, like, you know, in hindsight, I probably could have dealt with it a lot differently, but at that time that was the only option I could muster up. I was burnt out. But what I got from that was huge, because I didn't actually have a breakdown. I was having a breakthrough.
Did you know what you wanted to do? Or you just like, I've got to detach, and then it was like, okay, now I need to progress and better myself, or study new avenues.
I mean, I knew I needed to just get away for a minute. You know, it was just, we all had different ideas of where the business wanted to go. That was a real big sort of sticking point. Sub had left. Management was, you know, a bit crazy, and things were starting to fray, and it just became really challenging environment for us all. And so I thought to myself, you know, I just need a break. That's what I thought. I just need a break. I just need a change. I need to stop fighting the people around me. I need to stop fighting myself, because I knew I was tired inside. And I think the thing that got me the most was that I find great pleasure in making music. You know, I call it the temple. Just to sit in the temple for a day or two, for me, it's the greatest. Even if I'm not making music, I can just hang out in the studio. And that's one of the great things about Full Cycle. We loved studio. We loved going abroad and touring and just being in these spaces where you could just go to secondhand shops or music shops and just be in these rooms. I remember there was 2 shops, one in LA and one in New York. And whenever we go there, we just, you know, if you want to find us, that's where we'd be, in these secondhand shops, just playing on all these old synthesizers for hours, you know what I mean? And I love it. I still love it till today. And so the thing that got me was I wasn't enjoying that. I think that I wasn't enjoying being in the studio.
Yeah.
And that really, really hurt me. And we hadn't been in the studio because the touring schedule was so demanding for 3-4 years at the height of Represent. I really didn't spend hardly any time in the studio, and to be on the road, you know, and me and Ronnie were doing the bulk of the interviews. So we were like, when everyone else was go home, me and Ronnie had to go on and do interviews for weeks and just sit in front. It was like, you know, and because we were like, you know, as you say, we were the guinea pigs. We were learning. We were having to learn all these tools and techniques. And me and Ronnie, we created the blueprint for these interviews, and we created whole eye signals, hand signals, foot signals to communicate. It was deep. I'm telling you, it was like proper military mentality that we had.
Knowing what you know now, putting that back into that scenario, it might have been a whole different,
totally different
coping mechanism, and like burnout, and
totally different. I mean, so going through all of that, what I learned was that, first of all, I just reached. So let's just dive in. Let's go back to the beginning, because the reason how I got to there didn't start 3 years ago. It started with the formation of this identity I call Krust. That's what the problem was. I'm a black kid in a white ghetto with no identity. My dad's not there. My mum's bringing up 4 boys, and I'm number 3. I think, you know, I'm fighting for attention. If you're a big family, you know, number 1, he becomes the father, or she becomes the mother, right? Because the mother is busy, so the next child down has to take that role, and then it's the fight between, you know, 2, 3, and 4. You know, 4 is the youngest, so they just get all the attention, and 2 and 3 is a weird dynamics. You know, you can watch a couple of YouTube videos and understand family dynamics. So we're coming out of that. We're looking for significance.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the human needs, right?
Right. We're looking for recognition, right? Up until then, we're just these N-words to everybody. And now, that's where we learn to fight. We're fighting every day. We're trying to get some respect back. We see these black guys in New York doing breakdancing, rapping, on stage in front of thousands of people, and they're going mad, and they're doing this rapping, breaking, and we're like, that's what we should do.
So this need for significance, you think that was a motivating factor to your success?
It enabled me to do the first part. It enabled me to create the first identity shift, which was into Krust.
So Krust was formed for
Krust
the
was,
need and the drive for significance and recognition, and then that the love for music.
I had the motivation. I had the motivation and the will to get out of the environment I was in,
which came from
just abuse every day. Yeah, from pain. It was like, I don't want to be doing this every day. These people don't see me as one of them. They never will. So I've seen what people like me can accomplish. I'm going to do that. And so that's what we did. So, but Kirk Thompson can't do that. Kirk Thompson's quite shy, quite timid, not confident at all at who he is. And so this Krust guy, he's a DJ. DJs get attention. And now he can be a producer. And now I can be my own. And when we first had a taste of that, when we set up a party in our school, we set up a disco in our school. We borrowed my brother's beatbox. We put cardboard down. 20 kids came. We made, about £2 on the door. It was my first hustle. I got it.
Really?
I got it. It was like, it works. And me and my brothers, we saw it was like, right, this is what we're going to do. Let's take this model to the youth club. So we took it to the youth club. We did exactly the same thing. We charged people on the door. We spray painted the walls. By then we learned how to do the decks a little bit. We were in no way proficient, but we knew how to put a record on. And we just did that for 2 or 3 months, and people came. It was brand new. Hip hop, breakdance, and no one was doing it. We were the first ones to do it. We were the pioneers. So we did that for about 6 months. And all of a sudden it was like, we were somebody. We walked down the street. Hey, there's Fresh 4. We had fucking t-shirts on with Fresh 4 on. We were somebody. We'd made it. We got something, and it was different. There was a big transition from being these guys that was fighting and running away to all of a sudden these guys that were, hey, when's your next party?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It was huge, massive. Yeah. So then we took that whole idea to a squat. We found a squat in this place called St. Luke's Road in Totterdown. There was a scout hut in the bottom of the garden. We said to the guys, can we have the scout hut? They goes, yeah, sure. We knocked a hole in the wall, did exactly the same thing again. Spray painted the walls, put tarpaulin down, covered the roof, started holding parties. See, the thing doesn't change.
Like
it doesn't change. It was the same thing we did, right? Exactly the same thing we carried on doing. Started holding parties in there. Every month we'd hold a party, but this time we'd invite Wild Bunch. We invited all the big Bristol crews to come and play. So now we built this community. Now we were on the map. Now we put Bedminster, Totterdown, Norwest on the map for this DJing thing. Before then, you had to go the other side of town. So we had to go to St. Paul's, to St. Andrews and Montpellier to go to their parties and stuff. People kind of knew who we was, but we didn't have our own thing then. But then when we finally did have our own thing, now we were part of the Bristol crew. Mm-hmm. Boom, we made it, right? We were like, do you understand? So now we felt a part of the movement.
It's interesting you talking about that. It's like whether you follow the Maslow's hierarchy of needs or Tony Robbins' 6 human needs, it's like he breaks it down in a slightly different way. Essentially, it's the same thing. It's the need for certainty, right? And then the need for variety, ticking both of those boxes, doing what you're doing there. And then the need for significance and then connection. So when you've got those 4 things, we'll do whatever we can, even if we're using the vehicle in a positive or negative way. It doesn't matter. We're going to find a way to hit those 4 needs.
Yeah.
And, putting on raves, DJing, being part of a group like that. Yeah. That's really getting all of them. But it's missing out the top 2 needs, which is the need for growth and contribution.
And this is the next part now. So after doing that, we do the same pattern again when we do full cycle. But you're right. I'm not doing it for love, and I can't hold a relationship. So with a relationship I have, music's more important. I put that first, and we're driving this whole vehicle forward. So, and I'm not connected with myself. And at 19, I had this out of body experience where I'd floating up, and I saw the world, and like this was just before I blew up as a producer and DJ. And I think that
sober
sober.
yeah,
Yeah. And I think that was the universe showing me, like, you got two paths to walk down. You're going to go down this music thing and you're going to have this experience, or you could follow your spiritual path and have this experience. And I was 19. I didn't really get it's
quite young for that.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful experience, but I just didn't get it. I was like, ooh, this is beautiful. You know, I remember just lying there. I was on the ceiling, then I was on the roof, and then I was looking down at the planet, and I was like, wow, this is beautiful. It's just beautiful. And then I was back in my bedroom again. I was like, whoa. And I spent another 2 years trying to recreate that. I didn't know how to do it, but there was a little thing going around at the time where a few of my other friends were having these kind of experiences. Really, you know, we'd sit down and talk about it and stuff.
Was it a message? Did you get like some sort of, I just read this mad book the other day, The Holographic Universe Theory. Sometimes people that get these out of body experiences, there's some kind of a message from some sort of being. Did you get anything like that?
I didn't get anything. I mean, now I see it as the two choices. Like the one was like, you can follow me, come down this route.
Yeah.
And you're probably, and it was probably saying to me, you're going to get success if you do it my way. And me being stubborn, I was like, no, I'm going to do it this way. This is what all my mates are doing. So I'm going to do what they're doing. Remember, I want to be part of the pack as well, right? Yeah. So I just went, no, my mates are doing it like this, so I'm going to do it like this. And so I follow that.
If you were going to go through that process again and go through all those years again, what would you change? What would you do differently in a way that wouldn't compromise your health mentally and physically and your relationships?
I don't think I'll do anything different. I think that growth requires a significant level of learning that maybe that's the way that I had to learn.
You make the mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that if you probably gave it to me like this open thing, I probably wouldn't have taken it. I come from a struggle, you know, so I think that was probably in my DNA. I think what I had to learn is that life doesn't have to be about struggle. And so if you want peace, create peace. If you want love, create love. Right? So the antidote to what I wanted was to go through it. I couldn't have avoided it.
Yeah.
And look what happened.
No regrets.
No, I mean, look what happened though. Because now I've got experience. Yeah. Now, young people who come up to me and who want to learn it's like, who are they going to learn from? Like someone who's just had this perfect record that's never had, like, there's nothing wrong with that except for when shit goes wrong, they don't know how to fix it. And they keep doing the same thing thinking that that's going to solve the problem. It doesn't. Fortunately, I've been through the wars. I've been on tours when they haven't worked. I've been in businesses when we've lost tons of money. I've set up businesses that have been successful. I've set up businesses in 3 or 4 different industries. I've been all around the world. I've been stranded in different parts of the world. You know what I mean? I've got a deep level of knowledge that has been acquired through making mistakes and struggle and hardship. And I've been able to now turn that into something that can help people. If I was lost in the jungle, I'd rather be with someone like the Grills or than some investor who invests in coffee beans.
True talk.
You want to find a mentor who's got what you want. That's always been the thing that I've just like someone that's ahead of you. They don't even have to be like so far, but someone that's got the results that you want. And you're going to fast track.
They need
much faster.
They need to see the mistakes that you're about to make, and they're not going to necessarily tell you not to do it. They're just going to say, look, here's some options, right? Because there's
for one person, there is a code, right?
Yeah.
There's a general code for success and everything, but what specifically worked for one individual might not work.
Yeah.
Might not be the right lifestyle.
No, exactly. But everybody has to go through whatever it is. So it's hardwired in your nervous system. Like, that's the key. That's the point. Like, that's the point of being in 3D right now in this dimension. It's like, or else why are you here? It's to learn. It's to learn how to learn. And struggling is part of learning. Once you understand you don't need to struggle, then you can go to the next level. But that's still a lesson. So learning how to stop struggling, that's a lesson. Then you go to the next part, which is being okay with not struggling, because the nervous system feeds off of the energy of whatever it is. And so if it doesn't struggle, it says, what do I need to do? And now you're in this state, or what should I do? Or will I go back to struggling because that's what I know? But no, you go forward to the next. Well, I don't want to go to the next place. Who's there? What's there? And now it's panicking because it doesn't know what to write. And so now you got to get used to being at peace with this next piece. And so at every level, there is another devil. And so it's just a test for us to get used to how we need to behave as we climb up whatever ladder we're climbing up. And so for every level, what you did to get to the last level, you can't use to get to the next one. And that's a big learning curve.
What got you here won't get you there.
No. I started to do talks, and it started to get big really quick. Krust is doing these talks and these workshops, and like, what's that about? And then all of a sudden it went around all the community and people started booking me to do all these talks. And I noticed that I would be in the room and I'd be doing these talks and people would be talking. And I'm like, I'm here. What are you talking? Pay attention. I'm here. Do you know what I mean? Ego, right? And it just bothered me. I was like, how come some of the people would listen to me and some of the people wouldn't? How come some of the people get it and some of the people didn't? And then a friend of mine, Ryan Paul, he introduced me to NLP. He said, you got to try this NLP thing. I was like, what's that? He goes, Neuro-Linguistic-Programming. There's this thing. There's a free day. You should come along and check it out. And I was living in London then. So I was like, yeah, sure. So I went and I was like, okay, this is interesting. Learn how to communicate without communicating, study body language, hypnosis, language, linguistics. I was like, okay. And I found it was like making music. It was like figuring out these combinations.
The code again, man.
Yeah.
It's the code, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did you do it through the Richard Bandler side of things or through John Grinder?
It was, I think the guy that I did it with, he was from the Bandler tribe, I think. Yeah. But it was fascinating. I remember I got it straight away.
Yeah.
It was like thinking, creativity, improvisation, noticing, awareness. It was like being on the decks, right? Because being on the decks, you had to understand how to make the dance floor move, watching people, understanding body language.
How would you explain NLP to someone that's never heard of it before?
So NLP is Neuro-Linguistic-Programming. So it's basically understanding what we do really well unconsciously, and then it's making it conscious. So we all have patterns and habits. We all have these little things that we do that make us who we are. And we have ways to influence people, or the way that we are influenced. We have ways that we communicate. We have ways that we think, and we have patterns and habits. And we have things that we do that make us safe. So what do I mean by that? Most people go through life with patterns and habits that aren't designed to make you thrive, right? And there's this misconception about what we're actually doing. But what we actually are doing is we have patterns and habits that keep us safe. So when people try to go to the next level in their life, and this is where it shows up for most people, oh, I want a better job, or I want a better life, or I want to earn more money, or I want to become something more, they meet resistance, they meet obstacles. And those obstacles and resistance are generally internalized, and they come out in negative self-talk, a negative self-image, self-sabotaging. And the reason that occurs is because we have a self-image. This is why the identity thing is very powerful. And the self-image says, I am a banker, right? And so therefore, I can't be a DJ. So if I'm a banker, I do banking. So my identity is around banking, and everything that I've built up until then keeps that identity in banking. And so when you try and break out of the banking mentality, the subconscious mind says, no, you're a banker. Why would you want to be a DJ? The subconscious mind thinks it's keeping you safe. It thinks it's doing a good thing. The subconscious mind's number one priority is to keep you safe. And so most people, when they're self-sabotaging, what they're really doing is the body's just saying, nah, the unknown is over there. We don't know what that is. We don't know where that goes. So for now, I'm just going to keep you safe. And so that's when people come and see people like us, right? They want to learn how to think differently, how to change those patterns and those habits. And so what NLP does, it helps us recognize these patterns and these habits in people's language, in their behaviors, and in their habits. And so when you learn NLP, when someone has patterns that they don't want, you spot them straight away. It comes out in the way they walk, in the way they talk, in the way they try not to tell you stuff.
And someone can want to change, but whether it's 5% is conscious and 95% of us is unconscious, you can want to change, but the subconscious is not going to let you and that's where hypnosis can be a very powerful tool, or meditate. I mean, hypnosis has a bit of a stigma attached to it these days, but guided meditation is basically the same thing, where we can install these new programs into our subconscious. Is that something that you do? Do you do hypnosis as well?
Kind of, like it's sort of a linguistic style of hypnosis, conversational hypnosis, language pattern. So in the beginning was the word. So we know the programming language for human beings is language, words, right? So if all the time we're affirming our reality by saying I am, right? So you're choosing your reality. I am X, right? Those are the two most powerful programming words in the human language. I am is God in motion, energy in motion, universe in motion. So whatever you say after those two words, you are programming yourself. So one of the things I did on my courses, so after Disruptive Patterns, I changed it to Adapt the Canvas. And so I would do about 4 years now of doing coaching and mentoring. And so I would have classes and I would ban the words not bad.
Ban the words not bad, because it's a double negative.
It's a double negative.
Yeah.
So when I ask someone how you're doing, they say not
so common as
bad.
Well. You hear all the time.
Yeah.
I'm guilty for that one.
All right.
Not bad.
So you don't want to affirm that you're not bad because you're not good. So and they'd ask me, "Hey, how you doing?" I say, "Fantastic."
But then there's that analytical bit of the mind as well, isn't there? So I find it interesting. The words, like, we can use positive self-talk, but then there's also that part of that analytical mind that's like bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you're working at minimum wage and you tell yourself you're a millionaire, there's going to be that part of you that says, no, you're not. That's BS.
Yeah.
But you can talk yourself up and be like, right, okay, well, I'm not a millionaire now, but you know what? I'm going to be.
Yeah.
I'm going to learn.
Yeah.
So it's getting that balance. I think everyone gets obsessed with like positive affirmations and positive self-talk, but it's got to be done in a certain way.
Well, one of the quickest ways to do it is to be around people that are already doing it. You learn by osmosis, and that's how human beings have survived for so long. That's what tribes are about, right? You go to any football fans, that's a tribe. Religions are tribes. Millionaires are tribes. Billionaires are tribes. Poor people are tribes. When you want to break a pattern, you need to be around people that are doing the thing you want to do.
100%.
And the more you do that, the more you subconsciously pick up the man. Because we don't just learn by listening, watching. We learn deeper inside as well from an emotional, unconscious connection. And I think that's why this training is very important, because it's not just about teaching people self-actualization. Self-actualization creates independence, creates creativity, creates entrepreneurship. Once you instill people the creativity and the entrepreneurship mindset, then you set them free in the world, right? Because now what we are in short supply of is self-empowered individuals who are self-actualized, right? Who can actually go out and be autonomous and just to see what needs to be done and do it. Because we don't need another another photo sharing app, right? We don't need another app that separates people, that demeans people to wanting significance by getting someone to like them. We don't need any more of that. We've had that. It's done its purpose.
Critical thinkers and autonomy, and that's what, the conditioning is the opposite of that. They don't want that.
It's very small. I think, you know, it is happening. And I think that, you know, this communication is very important because look where we've all come from and look what we're all doing now. It's like there must be hundreds of us out there seeking this new thing and we haven't got a name for properly yet. No, we talked earlier about life coaching and the loadedness of that language. I mean, none of us like it, right? But imagine the people out there who are trying to understand what they want to do next and they keep bumping up against that and what that and the impression that that's given them. They want to do good. They want to spread their message. They want to take people on a journey that surround them, that they're the leadership of. But they just want to figure out, you know, who else is doing this? Who else can I see who I could look up to or get some sort of connection with that's going to help me get to, right? And I think this is why this is really, really impactful and important.
What's your life purpose?
To raise the consciousness of the planet through entertainment. That's my mantra.
Nice.
I'm very clear on that these days. I'm very, very clear on that.
So you use that to make decisions? It's like, right, I've got A and B.
Yeah.
And then you come back, center yourself and...
Yeah. If it doesn't have
Is this going to take me further to that purpose or not?
If it doesn't have any meaning, then I'm not doing it. If it doesn't lead me to help other people share, learn and grow, then I'm not doing it. There's no point. I've been there. I've done that. And now it's, you know, we are at a certain time in reality on planet Earth right now where we need to wake up as many people as possible so that they can make informed decisions, you know, so that they can be critical thinkers. We don't need to be telling people what to think anymore. People need to know how to think for themselves and make their own decisions.
And whether you want to call it an epiphany or a low or hitting adversity, it's like that's almost like the next level of consciousness, and it can be uncomfortable. Normally, it always is uncomfortable.
Yes,
it's often not an enjoyable experience.
No.
Going back to your coachees and this coaching that you do now, what's a common thread that people are stuck on?
There's two areas. One is the sequence of how to do stuff, and then the other part of it is the self-belief. So most people don't have that confidence, don't have the self-belief, and they don't have the tools to be able to combat it either. So they're living in this mindset which is continually reinforcing the problem that they're having, and they keep bumping up against themselves, and they just consider that to be the way that it is, you know, and so they're kind of giving up in a way because they haven't found a solution. And to do the same thing over and over again and not get a different result is what Einstein said is the definition of madness. And so when I see them, they are literally at their wit's end, you know, and then they see someone like me, and majority of people will recognize me as Krust, the DJ producer, and they've heard my story. So I've told this story many times, different variations, but the same thing. They see me as somebody who's gone through that and come out the other end. And so now they're like, wow, you've done it. And it's quite public as well. So I haven't hidden anything. I'm quite open to share about this because I know how valuable it is to see somebody who is quote unquote seems successful to come out and say, you know what, I had problems and I had to step away, but I dealt with it and now I'm back better than ever. That is a great story arc. That's a movie, right?
Well, it's the hero's journey, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you see the hero's journey everywhere now in pretty much all films.
Yeah.
There's the underdog, well, initially gets success, has the big crash, and then comes back from adversity better. You know, like the Lion King. It's everywhere, you know? Yeah. So what's the next steps for you then, Kay?
I think there's lots of things. One of the things I'm working on now is my new business called Wonder Palace, and that's a media company that really is about storytelling and creating interesting projects for creatives. And it's an outlet for me, so something where I can just create things that connect with the community. So some of it's music, some of it's design, some of it's art, some of it's technology. So that's fun at the moment. I'm trying to do things that I really enjoy doing and they're fun. Adapt the canvas, so that's the evolution now of disruptive patterns. So Adapt the Canvas is my kind of coaching platform. So that's sort of gone to its next level now. I'm working with a few people on the new program that I've developed called Elevation. So that is really about taking people to that next level. And really, I'm just in the same position, really. I'm just exploring. I'm having fun. I'm learning as much as I can. I'm growing. And I'm sharing as well.
And just going back to the kind of wellness, health, you've got your own CBD brand as well, haven't you?
Yes.
I'm like, you were on that like from early, weren't you?
Yeah, I think
the first time I was like, what was this? I think you even sent me something. I'm talking like years ago, before it kind of ever blew up as into a thing.
Yeah, I mean, we were like one of the first, I think, 7 companies that started at that period. So, I mean, that's an interesting story in itself. I was trying to get back into studio, and I was toying with the idea of smoking weed again, like to get back into this whole studio thing. And I just thought, that's not going to work. You know, you're just going to smoke weed and end up just staring at a wall because you haven't done it for so long. And I just thought, what else could there be? And I just did some research, and I found this thing called CBD. And I was like, what's this CBD thing, man? Like, and then funny enough, my partner at the time, we were talking about setting up a business. And then about a month later, I get invited to do a talk in the Amsterdam, the convention, what's it called?
It's ADE.
Yeah. And so we're in Amsterdam, and my partner, I'm doing a talk, she goes off for a walk. She comes back, she goes, I found CBD. I was like, wicked, let's go. So we end up going to this coffee shop and dropping CBD in green tea and just like chatting for like 4 hours, like intensely. We're like, right, this is us. This is what we need to do. And so, yeah, we found the suppliers, we found some farmers, and we just kind of, again, there's that moment. It was like, it's just really clear what we need to do.
That's I'm Alive.
I'm Alive, yeah.
.co.uk.
Yeah, .co.uk,
so
yeah.
Go check that out.
Yeah.
What other kind of routines and supplementations and like little like life hacks, biohacks and things you do now to keep you optimized?
I'm big on the morning walks. So as soon as I drop my son off at school, I do like about a 4K walk. And in the walk, I'm doing a walking meditation. I'm rehearsing, visualizing. I'm going over what's happened the last couple of days. I'm planning on what's going to happen next.
We're doing that fasted, or you've had breakfast?
No, I'm doing it fasting. I tend not to eat breakfast. I tend to just skip breakfast, and I fast probably till about 1, 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
How
many hours is that in total then from your final meal?
I get up about 6, and so that'll be my first meal. Probably be about 1 o'clock, and that will be, sometimes it'll be a porridge or a smoothie, and so I'm experimenting a lot with the mushrooms at the moment. So the lion's mane, the ashwagandha, and cordyceps. Yeah.
Really big news now, isn't it? So I can see it's growing.
Yeah. And the meditation. So then the first thing I do when I wake up, I'll do 20 minutes meditation, visualization. I'll do 10, 15-minute journaling. And then my son will probably wake up, so I'll look after him, take him to school, then I'll do my walk, and then I'll do more, sort of visualization, walking, journaling as I'm walking, loads of ideas, going over ideas like in depth as well. Like if I'm working on something, I'll just, I think what I've become really good at, I mean, when I was in London, I studied the Silver Method. You've heard of that?
Yeah.
Jose Silver Method. So I studied that when I was in London, and that was huge. When I learned that, and then I learned the, what did I learn next? I learned the remote viewing.
Remote viewing?
Yeah, remote viewing.
What's remote viewing?
So remote viewing, it was crazy. It's like a meditation, but it's where, so it comes from the Cold War, where the Russians were using mind, like going to a certain level of mind, and where they could see American bases and stuff.
Right.
So they would come out of this trance and they would draw something and they would take it to the people, and sure enough, it would actually exist in the real world. So you've got a famous remote viewer called Egon something. He's written a book called something like Beyond ESP. And there's a few books. I'll give you a list, but there's about 3 or 4 books that I read. And when I kind of got into this whole meditation thing, I was just fascinated by the whole thing. So I started to do that. And these are really good ways to sort of go to a deeper level of meditation where it's like your idea space. So for me, I needed something to take over from the weed.
Yeah.
And so I'd relied heavily on smoking to get me to that place. I wasn't going to do that now. So I thought, how am I going to do it? And I heard of meditation. I went to a course. I did the course in London for the Silver Method. That was brilliant. I really enjoyed that. And I just was like, as soon as I get into something, I'm like, what's next? So then I heard about this remote viewing thing. I started to do that. And that was great as well. So then when I go for my walks, there's like a protocol that you do, and that just helps you lower
This
your.
is the remote viewing thing?
It's kind of like remote viewing and meditation, where you practice going to different levels. So it teaches you to sort of operate.
So you're awake, you're moving around, you're walking.
Yeah, you're walking, but you're in a trance, and you're just sort of blocking everything out, and you're just thinking, like not thinking, but you're processing ideas, and it allows you to do it without the distractions of like what's around you.
And when you're meditating, say if you're doing like a 20-minute meditation in the morning, for example, are you doing visualizations there, or are you actually trying to clear yourself of all thought?
Yeah, I'm visualizing. I cannot clear myself. I've tried that. For me, it doesn't work. You know what I do? Like I'm always thinking about something. So like now it's Wonder Palace and Adapt the Canvas. My goal for this year, Wonder Palace, is this. How am I going to do that? Right. So I've written out my list, and then, so what I do every morning, I just imagine I'm already there. And so I'm imagining I'm already there. How did I get there? So I look back, and then I say, you did this, you did that, you did that. Okay. So then when I come out of it, I write down my ideas, and then I go out there and I sort of communicate these ideas.
Good coaching technique there as well.
Yeah.
With a client, like put them in that goal that they want. How did you get there? What were the 5 moves?
Yeah.
That enabled it?
Yeah. So I have this thing called always on marketing. So always on marketing is this whole idea that we're always marketing, right? And you can't not market. So for me, when I really got that concept, it was like, right. And I did this really well in my last album. So The Edge of Everything, come out of, semi-retirement. I do this album, and it's the most successful album I've done. It's the most well-received album, and it's probably the best one I've created. So when I was writing it, I was very aware of what I wanted to achieve. I didn't have any sales predictions, but I wanted it to be, some of my best work. I wanted it to reach a new audience. So I was very clear on that. So the way I set about doing that was having a really clear idea of how I wanted it to be perceived. So I changed the idea of what I was doing. I never called it a record or an album. I called it a film. So when anybody asked me what I'm doing, I said, I'm in the studio. He goes, what are you doing? I'm making a movie. We're making a movie. Well, I'm making a record, but it's a movie. So I was programming people subconsciously to start thinking about this project that I was doing like a movie. By the end of the project, everyone kept saying, you can read it in the press, they kept saying, yeah, Krust has done this soundtrack. That's an album. So I used all these techniques to impress upon people and how I communicated what I wanted this thing to be. And all the way through it, I'm communicating. So I didn't wait to the end to market the album. I did it in the beginning. I shot the album cover and all the artwork. I shot that 2 years before. So I had that all on my wall, and I lived with it for 2 years. It was on my wall with all the other messages. So if you come to my studio now, I have a wall, and it's got my next 2 years projects on it. And I live with that.
So is that so that you are programming yourself?
Yes.
Like to see those opportunities day to day, and just to remind yourself.
Yeah.
So literally.
Yeah. So I'm programming the RAS, the Reticular Activating System.
Sure.
I'm programming it.
You can tell us about that. Just summarize that.
Yeah. So your RAS is the Reticular Activating System. It's the part. It's a central part in the back of your skull that basically is your GPS. So if you want something, and you want it enough, it gets programmed into this nerve center, and then that nerve center is almost like it's going out there, like Google Maps. It's searching the universe for anything that's similar to it, and then it brings it to your attention. And then when it does, you say to yourself, "Oh my God, what a coincidence!" Well, no, you've just been programming yourself.
It's always been there. It's like when you're shopping for a new car and you're like, right, I want a new silver Mercedes. All of a sudden, you see them everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I didn't realize there were so many of them. Where have they come from? They've always been there.
Yeah, it's just now.
There's so much data that we need to program what we want to.
Exactly.
What we want to see.
So that's what the board's for.
Yeah.
The board is shutting down. So I'm advertising and marketing myself in that space. So now I'm just controlling it. So I do that with the images, with my notes, and with audio. So I'll record my affirmations. I'll record my year's journaling in my phone, and then
that's interesting. So you're recording and you're listening, programming your mind with your own words, your own voice,
my own voice.
Yeah,
and I'm saying it in a story as if I've already accomplished it. So, right. So then, the reason why I do that is because I don't want to break my world. So I'm world building. So the same way you go and watch a Disney film or a Marvel film or a Star Wars film, once you go into the universe, you're in the universe. You think Darth Vader's real. You think Luke Skywalker's real because you're in that universe. And when you finish part 1, you want to see part 2, part 3, part 4. That's what this is about. So we're building this world that now we're going to inhabit with all of our ideas. So we can't have gaps. And so one of the sayings that I have to tell my students is, why do you think the army doesn't let you home for tea in the evening?
Why do you think the army doesn't let you home for tea in the evening?
Yeah, because they need to condition you. It doesn't work if they let you home every night for tea. No. They're not building killer soldiers, are they? Oh, got you. What did you have for tea last night? Oh, my mum cooked me a shepherd's pie. Really? Now let's go and kill some people. It doesn't work. So they condition you in that environment for long periods of time until you become a killing machine or a great soldier.
Yeah.
And that's what this is about, the conditioning that you need to have to become super successful. So let's go back to answer one of the questions that you had about what would I say to someone who's trying to do this work, to try and be a successful producer, is the level of commitment that you need for the craft. And this is how you do it.
People talk about things like vision boards or putting things on your wall, or like you're recording your own audio with your own affirmations. But with technology, we're kind of on the brink of these virtual reality headsets where we'll be able to create that world for ourselves. So we'll be able to condition our goals so that they're so real that that's going to be fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, especially
it's
now
pretty
with
much
Apple Vision, right? That is ridiculous. If it's anything like what they've shown us.
So you'll be able to, like, I've got my 5-year vision. I'm just going to put my headset on in the morning and do my half-an-hour routine of living in my vision.
Yeah. Do you know the thing about astronaut training is that they put these glasses on you, and the glasses turn the world upside down, right? The reason why that happens is because we don't see with our eyes. Right?
See with the brain, right?
You see with the brain. So apparently the world that we're in right now is upside down. Our brain corrects it by putting it the other way around. So light goes into your eye, it goes into the chip, into the back of our brains, and our brain says, right, this is supposed, according to how we're programming, now we project out into reality what we want to see. That's why reality is subjective. RIP, reality is personal. So then what happens is they put these goggles on and they turn the world upside down, and they take the goggles off, you see the world upside down, right?
Shit.
This is astronaut training. So what they do then is, but this is how the brain can be programmed. This is what this is about.
Yeah.
And that's just why the glasses are going to be powerful, because if you can do that for astronaut training with those glasses, then you can do it for anything you want.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the conditioning. And this is what a lot of people don't get. It's like when we're having these conversations about bending time and space, and reality is personal. It's not what everyone thinks it is. So then it can be what you want it to be. And so why most people give up on doing the work is because you're not being persistent enough and consistent enough. Because if it was easy to hack,
Yeah. Well, everyone would be up to it.
the world
Yeah.
would be crazy. Chairs would be floating around, cars would be floating around. It wouldn't work. So there has to be a basic model structure. That's what the laws do. But then you can bend the rules by knowing how to bend the rules.
So there's that lag time, right, between acting and wanting something and then getting the results. Because if we got them all immediately, like you say, it would all be chaos. And a lot of people, it's a question of grit, and it's a question of commitment, and actually just seeing that goal. I don't know anyone really that's wanted to do something and stuck to it for long enough and not got it.
No, and I don't know anybody who thought that they could go to the gym in one day and be like Arnie.
Well, see, you can always use health and fitness as a great example. With everything in life, it requires doing the reps. It requires.
There's no substitute for that.
Knowing, are you wanting to gain muscle? Are you wanting to like lose weight? What's the goal there? There has to be a kind of goal based on the exercises you're going to do. And in 3 months, you can transform your body.
Yeah, 90 days is a good target.
90 days is a great target.
If you could give your younger self one piece of advice from where you are now, what would it be? Let's say that pre 2006. So
more fun, I guess. Just
have more fun. You were having all the fun though, weren't you? That was
no. You have a lot of fun, mate.
No, I think it was like
to someone that looking in, it probably looks like you're having fun, but you were.
I think I was, but I think we were being a bit serious though. I think it was, we were having fun and touring that, but like just stop that for a minute and like just pay attention to like friends and family and like have like fun that doesn't involve. Do you know what I mean? Like
the label,
be a kid again. Do you know what I mean? Like enjoy being a kid.
Okay. Yeah. And I know we touched on a book that made an impact in your life. What was the last book that you read recently?
The KLF by John Higgs.
Okay.
Have you read that?
KLF.
Yeah.
By John Higgs. No, but I'm going to write that down.
Yeah.
That is bonkers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Great read. So the whole book really focuses on who they are and how they got to the point where they burnt £1 million. And it's really, really powerful book.
I think there's a lot to be learned from reading autobiography.
I love them.
What's your top 3 autobiographies you read?
I've read a book by Roger Hamilton. It's called Wealth Dynamics. And in that, it's got a lot of the biographies of lots of people.
Yeah.
I think one of the ones that really had an effect on me is Arnold Schwarzenegger's biography.
Total Recall.
That guy is like, I mean,
that is, you wouldn't think it, but man, I remember at the end of that, I literally sat there in my car for about 10 minutes, just sort of speechless, just contemplating myself, contemplating everything. That is an amazing book.
Very interesting guy. I think that Wealth Dynamics books, it breaks down each of these successful people's style of operating.
Is this the Wealth Dynamics you're talking about? You have the creator, you have the star.
Yes.
You have you can pay like, what is it, £65 to do the test. It's quite a deep test. I mean, there's a whole load of questions. It takes a while. Yeah. And then it tells you what your type is. Yeah. And it's what type of entrepreneur you are.
Exactly.
Yeah. You've got steel. Yeah. And all those.
The Lord.
Yeah. And the idea is because, human nature, like attracts like. We tend to go for people similar to us, but they're often not the best business partners. We want to find someone on the opposite side. So it's very interesting.
Yeah. I think that book's really, really good if you're considering going on that entrepreneurial journey, for sure.
What are you out of the Wealth Dynamics?
Dynamo. Creator. Surprise.
Yeah. Coming towards the end of our time, just want to say thank you very much for coming down today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been great. I've enjoyed it totally.
We're looking forward to working more together in the future. Got a few little ideas in the pipeline, haven't we?
Yeah, definitely.
I won't say too much right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you very much.
Cool. Nice one, guys.